check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Welcome to The Game Changer by Powerhouse Coaching, your podcast to master the mental game, elevate your brilliance, and build a legacy of progress and impact. My name is Amanda Escobedo. I'm your inner game coach. I'm your host, here to help you change the game. Welcome to episode 21. Over the last few episodes, we have been talking a bit about emotions, feelings, narratives, the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and how you interpret circumstances really shapes your leadership behavior. And today, I really want to bring this all together, not conceptually, but I really want to talk a little bit about real life examples and how this all applies. And I want to provide you with some tools. So we've really been talking a bit of the mind conceptually. We've been educating you, setting the foundation. And today I really want to give you kind of like a first step of some tools that you could use for yourself. And part of bringing this all together, at least for this episode, is really based on the personal experience. And this past weekend, I actually had my first Jiu-Jitsu competition. And this was kind of a big moment for me because it felt like all of these episodes had been preparing me for this moment. And what I mean by that is I learned a lot from this competition and how it connects to leadership. And what I mean by that is the nervous system. My nervous system forced me to live everything that I've been teaching you all. And in this process of, I'll say, practicing and living out what I teach, I had a surprise happen to me. Now, that surprise look like just the emotional, bodily, physiological response to the competition. I've previously talked about how your emotions, those are an experience that you can't control. They just happen to you. Your feelings are triggered by a narrative. So basically, what do you make that emotional experience mean? And then that narrative will then create feelings. And so the emotional experience in a competition that could look like an adrenaline rush, right? So having that activation in your body, your nervous system, you feel a bit of maybe, I'll say, adrenaline running through your arms, through your legs. You're feeling maybe tight chest of anxiety. Ooh, excuse me. I have really bad allergies right now. So you may hear a little stuffiness or like the urge to sneeze. And so I'm just getting hard with these allergies. But going back to the adrenaline rush. So, emotions are included in your adrenaline rush. They're a physiological response that the body is happening. And again, they happen outside of your conscious control. They're signals that something significant is anticipation can occur based on like if you're forward thinking there's signals that something just occurred. If you just kind of went through it, you don't get to choose kind of that surge, that emotional response. You choose what you make it mean, the narrative that you apply to it. But here's the part that makes this a little more, I'll say, interesting. Now, I knew that I was going to have an adrenaline rush. So when I say I knew, like everybody's been talking about how a competition is very different than drilling on the mat during practice. The adrenaline rush is like a whole different experience. So I anticipated an adrenaline rush. With that, I had a system and a mindset system, a body system to help support the adrenaline rush so that it would work for me. I've used this in other experiences where I know an adrenaline rush is going to happen, where maybe it's like public speaking as an example. So when I talk about I had a system going into this competition. It was a mindset system, and then I had a system to support the adrenaline kind of navigating through my body. When we talk about the body, like a week leading up to this competition, I already felt like a bit of anxiety. I already felt a bit of like emotions running through my arms. And so I did different things to kind of help relax my nervous system, whether it was like going into the jacuzzi, going into the sauna. I ran a mile the day before to kind of have a shakeout run and also just shake out some of the nerves. And I also just started to do visualizations. I started to just visualize myself kind of controlling the body, practicing different submissions. So I was visualizing this experience. I was watching a bunch of videos, just kind of repetition, watching these videos. Of course, I had been practicing. I had been doing a ton of practice, been doing a ton of drills. So there was a lot of preparation to get me more comfortable and more confident and more familiar. And then the day of, like leading up, I had the critter brain really just coming in hot, which I know that the critter brain is triggered, especially through new and uncertainty. I know all of this, but it was so fascinating for me to talk to black belts. They're like, if it makes you feel any better, even as a black belt, I always have like second guess and feel like I don't know what I'm doing. And so it helped remember to normalize this for myself. And what I like to do to combat a bit of the critter brain is to have an intentional way of thinking. And when I say an intentional way of thinking, it's really about like, what do I want this experience to be? And so in a competition environment, I was really thinking about what do I want my competitor to feel? And then when I outlined what do I want her to feel, I also outlined who do I need to be? How do I need to show up? How do I need to think in order to really make that come true. And so, for example, when I talked about the mindset of what do I want her to feel, what do I want her experience through this process, I identified I wanted her to feel uncomfortable. I wanted her to feel my pressure. I wanted her to feel my strength. I wanted her to feel my submission. And so, those are things, mantras that I was saying to myself over and over. And I was starting to have that experience, the vibration go through my body. And then, in addition, in order for me to have her experience that, I identified what about me? What do I need to think? Who do I need to be in order for that experience to be true? One of the things I highlighted for myself was having the time of my life, have fun. Now, I consider jujitsu a creative process. It's the goal is to get into a state of flow. You can come in with a plan, but you never want to be attached to a plan in anything in life, a business plan, anything, your plan going into soccer, you have to be fluid. And I like some people say you date your plan, and I love that so much. Now, in order for you to get into your state of flow, your creativity, it requires you to actually be having a good time. You have to be enthusiastic. You have to be having fun. And so, with that, my mantra was having the time of my life. And when I would say that, that song would come in my head. Having the time of your life. Ooh, see that girl. Don't judge my singing. But that was a mantra that I was saying to myself. Another mantra I was saying to myself was, I know more than I think. Because I kept having this critter brain coming in, just feeling like I don't know what I'm doing. And while that may be kind of true, I mean, I'm a spazzy white belt, right? I have a lot to learn. But the truth is, actually, I know a lot more than I think. So I just haven't kept repeating that over and over. I know a lot more than I think. Another mantra in my head was take your time and let her cook. It's funny, I told this to my dad, and my dad was trying to remind me of some of these mantras, and he was like, what was it? Crockpot? Crockpot? And I was like, crockpot? Where did we get crockpot from? Let her cook. That's where he got crockpot from. But what that means is, when I'm usually rolling in my drilling sessions, I usually get feedback from the person I'm rolling with. Like if let's say I have control of their body, I have an optimal position. Sometimes I move too fast where I'm trying to go like straight from one move into another, which might be a submission. And the feedback I get is just like, just hang out here. This is a very uncomfortable spot for me. Just let me cook. Just hang out here. You're smashing my face. Like I can't breathe. You're smothering my face. Just hang out here. This is already uncomfortable enough. So that was another thing. Another mantra in my head was take your time and let her cook. Another mantra was the details. Like, one thing about jujitsu is, gosh, there's like 7 steps for like one move. Like there's 7 different details. They all have a purpose. Everything has a purpose that fits into like the dynamic, the fundamentals of the body. And so when I'm learning, I understand the intent, the philosophy of what we're trying to execute. But in order to effectively execute, it's in the details. And so let's say I'm doing a Kimura or something, I might forget to like pull my elbow in or like hold and grab onto my wrist hard. There's all these little details where I'm like, why you don't feel choked out right now? You don't feel your arm bending back backwards? What am I missing? And there's usually a detail. So that was another mantra in my head, the details. And then the last mantra in my head was winning is a possibility. And this was really helpful for me because one of the things the critter brain was surfacing a lot was just a lot of fear. One of my fears was, losing in front of family and friends. Like I've lost 45 million different times. It's a part of the game, but I had this interesting fear just because my family and friends have never seen me drill or roll before. They just hear me do it. This was the first time they were going to see me live in action. And I was like, oh my gosh, am I going to be an embarrassment to the family? Like, am I going to look so dumb? All these things. And I'm just embarrassed I was going to lose. And what if I lose in the first 5 or 6 seconds? I've seen all these videos of people like losing in a competition in like 5 to 6 seconds from like a flying arm bar or something. But the mantra really helps settle my nerves. Winning is a possibility. And one of the things I really love about that mantra, I actually use a bit of this with my clients. A lot of the time, they come into my sessions and they're kind of doing a dump of all the worries, all the things that could go wrong with something that they're trying to map out. And I think it's okay. We want to hear all those things, fear based items. We want to solve for them. So let's just do a dump of them. But the other thing that I always say as well is, if you're going to play the game, what if, then we have to play the game all out, meaning let's go through all the things of what if could go wrong and let's go through all the things of what could go right. And so winning is a possibility. And what I love about that is it feels so authentic and so real. It really is a possibility and it just opens up a corner of hope in your mind. And that's all you need is a corner of hope in your mind to feel like, wow, I can do this. And so this is the system I'm sharing. This is the system I set up for myself for this competition. And I've set this system up to help prepare my nervous system. I knew maybe I wouldn't have control of the adrenaline, but my goal was to transform that adrenaline into my power. And, once I stepped on that mat, none of my power I felt was accessible. um, I had like, what do I mean by that? I'll say mostly through the third match. The first match was like a good experience. But like coming out of that, I just started feeling strong shifts in my body. Like the other piece too, I had a strong headache that was happening. By the third match, I shook this girl's hand and I just felt all of my muscles like harden like cement. I felt my muscles locked. I just felt my jaw starting to throb. I felt this headache. I felt um, teeth pain. I felt, how do I explain this? I just felt weak. My entire body just felt weak. And I remember, which was so fascinating to me, I shook this girl's hand and I was like, oh no, what is happening to my body? And I was just like, wow, I think my body, when you go through fight, flight, or freeze, I think my body was going into a freeze mode. And I was like, what are we doing? Like, is this what you do, body? I was like, you go into freeze mode, you're supposed to go into fight mode in these situations. And what I found interesting is I just felt so not exhausted. Exhausted is not the right word. I was not exhausted at all. I just felt weak. And I remember thinking, even though I felt weak, this girl isn't that strong. I know I'm a lot stronger than her. I'm used to rolling with dudes that are like 50 plus pounds heavier than me, but I did not have control of my body and all of the system to help regulate my nervous system and access the logical side of my brain. None of that felt accessible. I just felt weak and I felt frozen. And for the first time, I really just felt like I didn't have control of my body. And that was what kind of left me in a bit of shock. um, I want to kind of bring this back to leadership in just in a moment. Preparation with anything big that you're doing, preparation is necessary. Preparation is what builds familiarity. Preparation is what builds confidence. Preparation is what builds competence. But one of the things I want to highlight is preparation. It doesn't equal capacity. Now, what does that mean? You can rehearse a script. You can visualize a win. You can meditate on it. You can write your intentions down. You can write down and say all the affirmations that you want. But if your nervous system hasn't built enough reps inside that specific environment, it may still override your logical brain. That doesn't mean that the system, the preparation that you've put into play is not working. It just might mean that you need more exposure to that activity in the specific environment. And what I mean by that, as this example, is I roll a lot. I do drills, I do all these things. I'm on the mat, I'm doing with different players of different sizes. But when we talk about the environment is just a lot different in the competition world than it is in the gym. And people have been warning me that competition is a lot different. It is not the same as drilling in your gym. And so that's the environment. And so when we talk about your system may not work, it may just mean you need more exposure to that environment, more integration, more capacity building. Preparation can calm the mind. Repetition really conditions the nervous system. And so that's the distinction that we're looking for. You know, my speaking system, like when I'm preparing to do public talks, um, I've done those, like that system helps transform and regulates my nervousness into a sense of power, a sense of flow. And I don't have any pain going through that process. And so, one of the things I want to highlight about this pain, here's also the difference is like, for example, if I'm doing a workshop, I'll get sweaty palms, sweaty feet. I'm like tapping my foot. And as soon as I get started, I'm in my state of flow with all my mindset, my mantra, the relaxing of my body. I do all those things to help regulate myself and transition that adrenaline into power. What I find fascinating about this particular experience with jujitsu is I really believe that my body, it really interpreted this in competition as a real fight or flight, like a real fight situation, a real fight. And so initially I thought this pain in my jaw, maybe it happened during the fight. And what I realized is no, this is just my body responding to what it believes was a real fight. And I'll go into a little more of what that means. What I want to highlight as well before I dive into that is just a little bit of a nuance between what we might consider your growth edge. You've hit your capacity. Your nervous system has hit its capacity versus maybe you're in misalignment. When an activation hits, and so in this case, my body was activated. My muscles just completely froze. They hardened. I felt completely weak. That is an example of an activation. When your body is activated, a narrative might be triggered that sounds like, oh gosh, this isn't for me. I'm not cut out for this. I shouldn't feel this way. Or maybe it sounds like, maybe I'm making the wrong decision. Maybe I misjudged this. Those might be default narratives that come. And I could literally, one of the things that I have been thinking about this entire time with this bodily experience that has been delayed for a few days, I've been having continuous jaw pain after the match. My jaw pain goes in and out. It travels from the left side to the right side, from the bottom to the top. It goes into my tongue. It goes into my head. It's shifting. And it's really a muscle response when I think about the competition. When I watch videos, like my whole face gets triggered. It's so fascinating. And I could see regular Joe Schmo off the street being like, oh gosh, this is not for me. What is happening to my body? I am not built for this. It's an understandable response. What I'm trying to help uncover is maybe that is not an activity for you. Maybe those are signals that are saying, yeah, this is out of alignment for you. And what is also possible is that you just discovered your growth edge. And so when I talk about your growth edge, this is your opportunity to start building that capacity into something bigger. Self-reflection as an example. Self-reflection, when you're reflecting on this experience, is what's going to help you discern whether something is truly misaligned or whether it's stretching you into a new capacity. One being misalignments, and again, the other being expansion of yourself. Leadership requires learning to tell the difference. Here's another real life example, and let's talk about expansion. One of the things in working in human resources and in coaching that I get over and over is people love to complain about peers. People love to complain about bosses. They don't love to address the issue directly with that person. They want to stay like in confidence. They want to share what they're feeling, give their feedback, and hope someone else will solve their problem. They don't want their name used. They want to stay undercover. And it makes them very uncomfortable. And I want to highlight what uncomfortable looks like. I just shared this whole bodily experience that I had with jujitsu. I recognize that some people have this with communication. I've had it myself, and I want to share what expanding your capacity could look like. I'm going to get personal for a second. There was a relationship that I was in San Francisco that did not go well. And when that breakup happened, I spent like a year walking to the San Francisco Bridge or the Bay Bridge, Golden Gate Bridge. I walked the Golden Gate Bridge and back. It was like about 7 miles. I do it every single weekend, and I would just reflect, what went wrong? What should I be learning from this process? And boom, all the insights hit me. I'm the problem. I learned that I believed all men had red flags. I learned that I'm a runner. I learned that I never communicate. I just observe. I'm just looking for everything that could go wrong, and I'm using it, collecting it as data until I feel like I have a big enough case to be like, I was right. You're not a good person. And then I would just leave. And those learnings were very insightful for myself. And when I went into my next relationship, I moved from the Bay Area, I moved to LA. I remember meeting this most amazing guy. And I remember meeting this guy and I was like, whoa, how did I attract this person? I thought he was so amazing. I was like, I'm not confident I can keep someone like this. I was like, I just learned all these things wrong with me. I'm not confident I can be that person yet, but I'll try. And so I made some personal commitments to myself that I wasn't going to break up with this person or break up because I had broken up with every single person. I had let it. And two, I had committed to communicating no matter how hard it was. Now, when we talk about the physiology, the bodily experience that is out of your control, and I want you to really consider this example because I see something similar, maybe not this extreme that I'm going to share, but the discomfort of communicating directly, sharing feedback, sharing what is bothering you. For me in that relationship, I had literally never shared what I was thinking with anybody. I would just hold it with resentment. When I practiced communicating, the poor guy that I was dating in this relationship, boy, was I exhausting. I was crying over everything, everything. Something as simple as being like, bro, can you put your socks in the hamper? Like your socks are right next to the hamper. Something like that. I would be bawling. And even I would say, I recognize, I can acknowledge this is not cry worthy. I literally cannot control my body right now. This is just a response that's happening outside of my control. Now, this is what we're talking about, discerning whether you're not in alignment versus you've reached your capacity, your growth edge, and now it's your opportunity to expand. The only way for me to expand my capacity was through repetition in that environment. I can't just practice in the side what I'm going to say to somebody and then never say it to them directly, right? And expect that to be real. No, no, no. I had to keep showing up and keep communicating through crying and also keep saying, like, I recognize this is not cry worthy. This is just what's happening to my body. And eventually, I say eventually, it happened after this relationship. So this guy never got to experience the new me. He eventually broke up with me. So I have to say, I'm very proud of myself because I didn't break up with him and I continued to communicate. I followed through on my commitments. But it wasn't till the next person I dated that my body started to recognize you're safe. You won't die. It's fine. And rejection, you survived that breakup. You'll be fine, right? So the worst case scenario happens. So you're rejected, right? And I survived. And so the brain finally found this safety, but that took over a year. It took over a year for my body to get adapted to that. I'm hoping this whole competition thing does not take as long. But this is where I'm trying to say, and I want you to do like a quick self-reflective moment. If what are you experiencing? What are you avoiding? And if you try it, is this whole bodily experience, does that mean it's not for you? Or is this really your opportunity to get some repetitions in and start to grow into this next evolution of yourself? And I want to really normalize how much time it may take you, how much time it may take you to get comfortable, to normalize, that you're not constantly avoiding, so you're not constantly reacting, so you're not constantly crying like me. So again, trying to normalize the human experience. And so when I bring it back to, I find it fascinating with this whole competition piece because, you know, I have not met one person, not one person. I've shared this experience with a lot of my jujitsu friends. I have not met one person that has had this bodily experience that I have. And I find it fascinating because little kids do these competitions, black belts compete, people of all sizes, all ages, and a lot of the people love it. Some people, I'll say a friend showed up. I was trying to convince my friend, hey, is this something you do? He was like, yeah, this is an easy no. But what I'm trying to say is that what I found fascinating is my body processed this experience as a real fight, which is fascinating. And with that processing, my nervous system is responding a certain way. And so this is just a very unique experience. And this activation doesn't mean my body's weak. It doesn't mean my nervous system's weak. It doesn't mean I'm broken. It's just data. That's all it is. It's just data telling me more about myself. It's just telling me, oh, I found a new area that I need to work on. And so the question goes, how do I work on this? What does working on this look like? Now, let's get into, I wanted to give you some real life examples, normalizing and giving you real life examples of emotions and feelings and narratives, the subconscious mind, and really being outside of your control, even though you've prepared, you have a system in place to support yourself and still feeling like not having control. And recognizing that that is normal. I'm trying to normalize that for you, and also just recognizing repetition and the amount of time looks different for every single person. Now, I do want to leave you with some regulation tools. How can you regulate your body? What does that look like in real life scenarios where you're activated, where you are triggered? One of the things I want to share here with this jujitsu thing is I'm still working through jaw pain. I'm now at about an 80% shift better. It was really, really bad since Saturday. Today is Wednesday. Yesterday, I was at about a 70% better. Today, I'm about at 80% better. Now, how did I get here? One of the things that you can do with pain, I really want to highlight pain, and also, I'm going to excuse me. Told you, I've got some allergies that are like really triggered. I can't control the allergies. They're almost like uncontrollable emotions. But one of the things that you can do to kind of regulate yourself is curiosity. Curiosity. And I like to say curiosity over catastrophe. With this whole bodily experience that I'm experiencing after the fact, right? This event is done. This event happened on Saturday, and yet I'm going in and out of jaw pain, going in and out of headaches. The pain is moving. Initially, I thought this pain was maybe triggered from me grinding my teeth at night because I started feeling this pain driving to the event. I was like, gosh, I really must have been grinding my teeth that I'm having this strong pain that was triggering a headache. And then when the pain really came on strong after the matches, I was like, gosh, I really must have been clenching my teeth. You are a mouth guard. Maybe I was really clenching my teeth, and then it's now triggering this strong pain. So initially, I thought it was from clenching down hard, grinding my teeth. So I took some ibuprofen and it helped a little bit. But when I started to notice like this keeps coming back, I was like, okay, maybe I should pay a little more attention. I wonder if this is related to like a body reaction to the experience, because it was not just pain here. I was feeling like still a bit of a rush through my arms and my legs. I was still feeling a bit of rush through my chest, like adrenaline and anxiety. And so I just started getting curious and noticing the body. And I put my attention on my jaw and was like, is this pain in one spot or does it move? When it shifts, does it dissolve or does it expand? What triggers it? Like, when does it show up? When does it go away? What am I thinking when it shows up? What am I doing? And all these different questions help me realize, like, oh, wow, I'm realizing it's shifting. It moves from one area to another. And I realize and connected that the pain starts to surface when I'm thinking and reflecting about the competition or I'm watching a video of myself. It's so fascinating to me because it's almost like I feel like I'm watching, like, my daughter, and I'm like, "No, don't hurt her," which is hilarious to me. And so I'm having a whole bodily experience, and so my body is signaling something significant has happened. And as my body is signaling this, there are questions that you could be asking yourself. A default question that someone might ask is like, gosh, what is wrong with my body? Is my body broken? Those are closed questions that I would say access the critter brain. They're not going to help you solve the problem. It's not curiosity. Curiosity is actually the antidote of judgment. But if you're asking yourself an open question, like, I wonder what my body is trying to signal to me right now, when I asked a more open question, I just started to realize my body doesn't think it's safe. My body started to process that experience as a real fight. And so that insight helped me realize, oh, I need to start telling my body that I am safe. And I started doing some research and like how to kind of get past this. And it's like slowly integrating, watching small clips of the videos and then putting your phone down, watching, and then once your body and you feel regulated again, bringing it back, watching small clips and putting it down. And I was like, am I ready for practice? Can I go to practice? Right. And so it's like, how do I slowly introduce these things to my body so it knows that it's safe, it's fun, it's creative, it's of value. And so it's little integrations. And I do believe that all these things that I've been doing is now what has brought this pain to like an 80% better, if you will. I'm going to sneeze again. Maybe not, false alarm. Ugh, they're not even emotions. These allergies are triggered and activated. So, number one, what I'm really trying to highlight for you is curiosity is a really valuable tool to just getting some insights on emotions and getting some insights on regulations for yourself. And the last thing I'll even say is, with noticing and following the with my curiosity, the pain, I was noticing like, oh, it's starting in the back of my jaw, and I was just following it. And when I started to follow it, it would dissolve from the back, move to the front. I'd put all my attention and notice, is it going to move from the front? And then I was like, oh, is it triggering to the head? Then I would follow my headache. And just the follow of it then started to relax me. And then the pain started to shift. And I was like, oh, wow, I actually have control with dissolving the pain. And it requires relaxation of the body. And so it's a mindfulness experience. That's literally all what curiosity brought me to. Curiosity could look completely different for you, but that is an example of what curiosity can look like. And curiosity can look like in help regulating yourself. Now, another item I want to do is highlight for you in regulating yourself is building out, I'll say, an activation system for those high activation moments. Emotions again are physiological signals. They just happen. They're out of your control. And high performers, strong leaders, they don't ever eliminate adrenaline. It's not something we can just eliminate, but they build systems to work with them. They build systems to use that adrenaline in their favor, in transform it to their power. And so again, just as an example of systems, when I go and do a workshop, I have a whole system that I do beforehand. And that might look like, driving in silence. When I'm on my way to a workshop or a seminar, I intentionally don't listen to music. I intentionally don't listen to podcasts. I have all noise muted and I'm just going through 5 seconds, senses check in. And a five senses check in just brings me into the present moment. It pauses thoughts into the future, it pauses thoughts into the past. I'm just here and now. And it starts to ground me, it starts to regulate me. I'll roll down my window and I'm just listening for the sounds. Do I hear anyone honking their horn? Do I hear other people's radio stations? Do I hear people fighting? What do I hear outside? I might then transition to, colors, like what are the different colors of the cars? What are the different brands? What do I see? It's just going through all of your sensory items, and that helps to ground me, stabilize me, regulate my nervous system. And then the other part, as I mentioned, I might identify 5 words that I want my audience to feel. I might identify 5 words on how I want to show up. So, as an example, if I'm walking into a workshop, I might identify energy, insight, competence, awareness, fun. So, energy might be I want the room to feel energized. Insights might be I want my audience to have an aha moment. Competence might be I want my audience to feel that I am a mastery of this work. Awareness might look like I want them to have reflections. I want the reflections to be activated. And then fun. Like I just want to have this experience expand and be energizing and fun for all of us. And so I'll meditate on these words over and over and over till I feel them energetically vibrating through my body. And so, what is important about establishing a system for a highly activated moment, and when I say a highly activated moment, it's a moment that you know you're going to have an adrenaline rush, a moment where you feel naturally you're not going to be in your power, and we're trying to intentionally place you in your power. These are moments that we cannot just wing. I mean, you can, but if you're winging it, it's likely not going to turn out in your favor. And so, we want to be intentional with a system. And so, again, some of the like most highly performed leaders, they are not winging the situation. This is an intentional conditioning of the body, of the mind. And so, examples of where you might establish a system might be an earnings call that you're leading, it might be a press review that you're responding to. It might be a live all hands with all of your employees, where maybe you're announcing a new product launch. It might be a time where you're signing payroll during a downturn of your business and you're like, wow, this is a big check and I don't know where I'm going to get the funds for the next one, right? Like these are very high adrenaline potentially moments. And so the question is, what is your system when you are leading those moments? What is your system for success? When we think of fitness, fitness doesn't just happen by motivation. It happens through a system established by discipline. Leadership is not a winging sport, it's capacity training. That's what we're trying to do for you. We're trying to help you do hard better so that your brain does not start to experience these things as hard. We're trying to help you be more grounded intentionally. And so when we talk about like my BJJ system, my jujitsu system didn't hold for me, but it told me I just need more reps before my nervous system can stay regulated in that environment. It's not a failure. It's just capacity building. And so I really want to reinforce and highlight if you establish a system and you still feel like you didn't have control and you were not grounded in that situation, you just may need more repetitions in that environment in order for your body to know you will be okay, in order for your body to build some type of familiarity, in order for your body to know that you are safe in this environment. The body is a fascinating experience. Now, the last thing I want to kind of highlight for you is real time body regulation. And when I talk about real time body regulation, let's say you're activated in a moment. How do you get through that fast? And so maybe you're in a meeting where somebody really triggers you. So it could look like maybe you are, you know, outlining your vision, a strategy, a roadmap in front of other key stakeholders, and a peer or another stakeholder in the middle of what you're reviewing says, I can't hold my tongue anymore. Like, this is the dumbest plan I've ever heard. It does not make any sense. It's like inefficient. And they just start going on and on and on and poo pooing on everything you're delivering. And naturally, you are very activated in that moment. How do we get you to navigate through that emotion so that you can consciously respond? How do we get you to stabilize as quickly as possible? Number one, it requires you to just notice that you're activated. That's literally a step one in this process is just awareness. Oh, I am triggered in this moment. So the sense of awareness of I am triggered is going to help you move through the additional steps. And so if you're aware, like, oh, I am triggered. I've literally been in situations with people at work or in relationships where maybe they say something that hit me wrong. And I just say, I'm triggered in this moment. So I may just need to like take a step back and be with myself. Or I might say that in my head, depending on the situation, be like, oh, wow, I'm triggered and I'm activated. And if that's the case, then we move into step two. And step two is really once you've recognized you're triggered, you're activated, it's moving into how's my body responding? What is my body doing? And so your body might be doing a couple different things. Your face might be hot. Your arms might be like having a rush. Your chest might be tight. Your throat might be closing. And in these examples, you just recognizing what is my body doing, picking one area of your body to put all your attention to and just have it be a mindfulness experience of just being and just, how do I say, putting your attention on all of that sensation in your body. So, for example, I've had an experience where my body was activated. My face was hot. My throat felt like it was closing. I was losing air. My chest was getting tight. My arms were going numb. And I recognized this and I kind of turned into a curious scientist. And I just was like, wow, the body is super fascinating right now in this moment. This is where curiosity comes into play. Curiosity is going to be so helpful. With that curious, I'll say scientist mindset, I was like, let's pick a spot in the body. Let's pick a closed throat and let's just see if a closed throat is going to close all the way. And I was like, let's just see if I lose air. And literally, I just put all my attention on a closed throat. So when we talk about focusing on the sensation, it's picking an area of your body and just putting all your attention on that. And you putting all your attention on that area of your body, it'll take about 60 to 90 seconds for the emotion to pass through you. It only takes 60 to 90 seconds, depending on the situation, right? There are going to be times where maybe you reach your capacity and it might look a little different. But in a regular day to day situation, if you just put all your attention on a sensation of your body, it will pass. And that's literally what I've been doing with my jaw is putting all my attention on a pain spot and then eventually it starts to relax. And the reason why it starts to relax is because we're pausing your brain from any type of real thinking, right? A lot of the time we're time traveling is what I like to say. We're traveling to future worries, we're traveling to past regrets. And these thought process can be activating for us. And so even in this situation, let's say you're in this meeting, the narrative that you have applied to this leader that has interrupted you, this little blah, 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 cannot believe who does he think he is? Da, 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 who does she think she is? That narrative can be very triggering. But if we are putting all of our attention on a closed throat, that narrative starts to be released. That narrative starts to be released, and you start to be in the present moment. And that present moment then starts to relax the body. And then all of a sudden, the closed throat just starts to open up. And literally for me, I had this experience where I was just thinking, let's just see if a throat just closes completely at me and I just lose all airway. And after I'd say, I don't know, around 90 seconds, it just started to open up. And I was like, wow, the body is so fascinating. That's literally how you can regulate yourself in the moment. Now, depending on where you are, if you've had an opportunity to take a step back, process, like I'd say if you're in the middle of the meeting, you probably can't necessarily process in the moment because you might be activated, right? But what I like to do after is do a reflection after. If I leave a meeting, if I leave a triggering moment, what was I feeling? I was feeling anxious. I was feeling angry. I was feeling afraid. What were you feeling? And then what was the narrative behind that? And that narrative is going to just give you insights. And what we want to ensure we're always doing in our self reflections is not judging what we're thinking. It can be very easy to judge our judgments on other people, our judgments on ourselves. We might start to see insecurities start to surface. We just want to be the curious scientist. It's like, wow, okay, this is what I was thinking. Interesting. Is this a type of thought process that serves me? Is this a type of thought process that is collaborative? Is this a thought process that will support my goals, that will support the initiatives we're trying to achieve, right? If not, then what is a narrative that would serve me? And so within this in the moment regulation, the number one thing I really want you to focus on is once you have awareness, it requires you to have awareness that you're activated. It's focusing on a sensation in your body and just putting all your attention there, and that will just start to relax the body. So these are just different things that you can do to help regulate yourself. Again, you can create a system for those adrenaline moments that are going to be triggering or activated. And then there's real-time regulation that I just provided you. And again, what I shared, if the real-time regulation, your system does not work, it does not mean you're broken. It does not mean the system is dumb. It could just mean you've reached your capacity. Your nervous system has reached this capacity and it just needs more repetition in that environment. And the other thing I want to do with that repetition is just normalize time. I just gave you an example where I was trying to practice communicating and not crying. And it took me over a year to break the pattern of just being able to speak and say what I was thinking without crying. And now I love giving my opinions, my ideas fearlessly. I have no fear. There's no sense of like nervous system or crying. It's taken me time to work through that, a lot of time, and I have worked through it. I'm going to give you an animal example to normalize this too. Most of you know I have a dog named Pinto Bean. He's my little frijoles. And Pinto Bean, or when I got him, it took us 3 months to crate train him. Worked through that, got him crate trained, and then here in Southern California, we had a really bad thunderstorm one year. I was out at a restaurant, I came home, my dog was not in his crate, and I was like, "Where is my dog?" And I started freaking out. And I was going through my house and I found him hiding in my closet. He had escaped from the crate because he was so scared. And we have a routine. The routine was every time I was ready to leave or going somewhere, I'd say, Pinto, mom's got to go. You got to stay. He knows that pattern. He knows that means I'm leaving. And then you could see him get so sad. And then I would also follow up with when I was ready to go, you've got a crate, please crate. And then he would start walking into his crate. That's how good I was. But because he had now associated the crate with danger, when I would say any of those phrases, his body started to shake uncontrollably. He literally started to have a panic attack. And this poor dog, this poor guy, I saw him trying to calm his own self down. It took me another 3 months to train him. And part of that looked like just slowly integrating him back into the crate. I'd put him in, put some food in there, take him out. I'd open the door, close the door, take him out. And all of that shaking uncontrollably. And one of the times I saw him stuff his head into his pillow, trying to calm himself. And slowly he's like holding his breath until he's starting to make this loud panic noise, like, ah, ah, ah. And I was like, what is happening to this poor dog? He was even trying to regulate himself and he was failing. We did this over and over, opening the gate, close the gate, open the gate, close the gate, lock it, walk away, come back, open it, jingle the keys, open the front door, close the front door, stand outside the front door, open the gate. All of this stuff for 3 months, repetition over and over multiple times a day till one day I said my famous words, mom's got to go, you got to stay, you got to crate. He was not shaking. He was not only not shaking, he walked in. And so this is where I just want to again normalize the experience of repetition. Let go of your attachment of how much time it might be for you to grow into your new capacity, to stretch yourself, your nervous system into a new capacity where you feel more grounded in this new environment that you are being introduced to. So let's bring this all back to leadership. You know how I love to close with self-reflections. And I want to leave you with a couple of questions for yourself based on today's episode. Where does your body react? Where does your body react, feel activated before your mind catches up? I just gave you an example of Jiu-Jitsu. Like I had no idea initially what I was thinking, especially in the moment going into the match. I didn't know why my muscles were being frozen. I felt fine. If you were to ask me what I was thinking, was thinking like, let's go do this. This is exciting. Apparently not. My body was so new. And that's an example where your mind is catching up after the fact, where your body is activated and your mind is catching up after the fact. Do you ever have moments like that, whether in your personal life or in your leadership or in your business? What situations consistently activate you? So maybe your mind is not delayed, but what are those situations that consistently activate you? Are there particular meetings that people are in? Are there particular people that activate you? Is it whenever you're on an earnings call or your sales team is delivering their sales number, their quarterly numbers? What are those moments that you find yourself consistently activated? On the other side, what are systems that you've built for those moments? And when I say built for those moments, what are you proactively doing to be grounded in those moments, to transform those activated moments into your power, where you have the ability to have a critical thought? You can access your inner wisdom. You can access the logical side of your brain. What are those systems that you are building for yourself? And in those moments, are you asking yourself closed questions? Are you asking yourself open questions? And what does your growth edge, when you have reached that growth edge, how have you potentially mislabeled it? Have you reached your capacity, your growth edge, and said, this isn't for me? Or have you recognized maybe you're not in alignment? Or have you actually recognized, oh, this is an opportunity to build my capacity? Again, leadership is not about eliminating emotions. This is really just about expanding, challenging you to expand your capacity. And capacity is built through awareness. Capacity is built through curiosity. Capacity is built through systems. Capacity is built through repetition. All right, folks, that's all I've got for you. My name is Amanda Escobedo, and you've been listening to Game Changer. If today sparked some insights, some ahas, some appreciation, some new perspectives, I'd be so grateful if you subscribed, left a review, and shared this episode with at least 3 people in your network who are ready to master their inner game and unlock their potential. Your support helps others discover this resource and invites them to be the next game changer. Join me next time for another episode on leadership, culture, and creating impact that lasts. Thanks for listening.